No dobrze, to zaczniemy od fragmentu filmu What is a Woman? Można sprawdzić ten film na stronie IMDb. Jest to chyba największy serwis do ocen i recenzji filmów. Można zobaczyć, że film ma bardzo dużo recenzji. Ja generalnie będę się starał wrzucać tutaj wszystko tak, żeby można było potem sprawdzić wiarygodność źródła i tak dalej, i tak dalej. Jeżeli ktoś nie mówi po angielsku, to i tak będę wrzucał to w tłumacza. No i pierwszym fragmentem, który chciałbym tutaj zaprezentować, jest wywiad z panią Michelle Forcier. No i to jest właśnie fragment filmu What is a Woman, czyli czym jest kobieta. Pierwsze co zrobimy, to tylko wrzucimy jeszcze imię tej pani w Google'a, żeby zobaczyć, kim ona jest. No i pierwsze co nam się tutaj pokazuje, to jest strona Uniwersytetu Brown. Tutaj pokażę, jest strona główna Uniwersytetu. No, ale wracamy na profil pani Brown. Może tutaj wszystko sobie skopiujemy, wkleimy to w Google Translate. Ja tylko przeczytam końcówkę, ale każdy może sobie w każdej chwili zapauzować, może to sobie przeczytać, albo ewentualnie może sobie po prostu powtórzyć to samemu. Robię to tylko po to, żeby pokazać, że jest to prawdziwa osoba, jest profesorem pediatrii. Tutaj niżej mamy napisane, że świadczy usługi w zakresie, tutaj bla bla bla, ale na samym końcu mamy opieki nad chorobami przenoszonymi drogą płciową, dojrzewania i problemów menstruacyjnych oraz różnych hormonów afirmujących płeć i planów opieki. Pediatra. No to teraz zobaczymy, co pani pediatra ma do powiedzenia na temat swoich praktyk.
My name is Michelle Forcier, and I have a medical degree from University of Connecticut, residency, University of Utah Pediatrics, and I've worked for a number of different Planned Parenthoods for 20 years. I do advanced contraception and abortion, as well as gender hormones, and sort of looking at the whole sort of schema of gender, sex, and reproductive justice.
So you've done a lot of work in this field. Could you just start by telling us?
Sure.
At what age can a child first begin to transition into another gender or identify themselves as a gender different from how they were born?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's research and data that show that babies and infants understand differences in gender. Some children figure out their gender really early, and the reason why we say, oh, that's interesting or important is because they're figuring out their gender identity is not necessarily congruent with their sex assigned at birth.
So what is gender affirmation care you're a big proponent of? If we walk through, a child is sitting down with you, is questioning their gender. What's the gender affirmation process?
Affirmation means that as a pediatrician, as someone who says my job is to provide the best medical care for you, is I need to listen really carefully. And how I put it in words for kids so that they can understand it is, tell me your story. Where have you been in terms of your gender and your gender identity? Where are you right now? And more excitingly, where would you like to be in the future?
At what age does the medical transition begin with medication?
So medical affirmation begins when the patient says they're ready for it. So that could be a kiddo who is just starting puberty and panicking because they're getting breast buds or their penis is getting bigger and busier and they're worried about all kinds of masculine changes. And that way, puberty blockers, which are completely reversible and don't have permanent effects, are wonderful because we can put that pause on puberty. Just like if you were listening to music, you put the pause on and we stop the blockers and puberty would go right back to where it was. The next note in the song just delayed that period of time.
One of the drugs used is Lupron, right? Which has actually been used to chemically castrate sex offenders?
You know what? I'm not sure that we should continue with this interview because it seems like it's going in a particular direction.
Well, you're a medical professional.
I am a medical professional.
So you don't want to talk about the drugs that you give to kids or?
Again, I'm a physician and I use medication. You're choosing exploitive words. Drugs I give to kids.
I'm choosing a
chemical
word that was in a dictionary.
That's not a correct term for puberty blocking.
I could look it up on my phone, but I'm pretty sure if I looked it up,
you can look it up on your phone.
It says medical definition: the administration of a drug to bring about a marked reduction in the body's production of androgens and especially testosterone.
And I'm saying, as a pediatrician who takes care of hundreds of these kids, when you use that terminology, you are being malignant and harmful.
I mean, there are some who would say that giving chemical castration drugs to kids is malignant and harmful.
It's about the context of caring for a child and seeing the suffering that kids can have that have not been in affirmative home situations.
No a więc co się dzieje, gdy dziecko, które czuje, że urodziło się w złej płci, ma nieszczęście trafić na takiego specjalistę, jakim jest pani Forcier? Może ją spotkać takie nieszczęście, jakie spotkało dziewczynkę imieniem Chloe Cole. Tutaj są jej zdjęcia przed i po. Jak wygląda teraz. Można oczywiście wpisać imię Chloe Cole w YouTube'a. Można zobaczyć, że wiele filmików z nią istnieje, ma wiele wyświetleń. Tutaj jest wywiad z Jordanem Petersonem, z profesorem Jordanem Petersonem, ma 4 miliony wyświetleń. Tutaj była Fox News, jest przez oficjalny kanał Fox wrzucony, więc oczywiście jest to prawdziwa osoba, jeżeli to w ogóle komuś trzeba potwierdzać. I teraz przejdziemy do jej wystąpienia.
My name is Chloe Cole, and I am a detransitioner. Another way to put that would be, I used to believe that I was born in the wrong body, and the adults in my life whom I trusted affirmed my belief, and this caused me lifelong, irreversible harm. I speak to you today as a victim of one of the biggest medical scandals in the history of the United States of America. I speak to you in the hope that you will have the courage to bring the scandal to an end and ensure that other vulnerable teenagers, children, and young adults don't go through what I went through. At the age of 12, I began to experience what my medical team would later diagnose as gender dysphoria. I was well into an early puberty, and I was very uncomfortable with the changes that were happening to my body. I was intimidated by male attention, and when I told my parents that I felt like a boy, in retrospect, all I meant was that I hated puberty, that I wanted this newfound sexual attention to go away, that I looked up to my brothers a little bit more than I did to my sisters. I came out as transgender in a letter I sent on the dining room table. My parents were immediately concerned. They felt like they needed to get outside help from medical professionals, but this proved to be a mistake. It immediately set our entire family down a path of ideologically motivated deceit and coercion. The gender specialist I was taken to see told my parents that I needed to be put on puberty-blocking drugs right away. They asked my parents a simple question: would you rather have a dead daughter or a living transgender son? The choice was enough for my parents to let their guard down, and in retrospect, I can't blame them. This was the moment that we all became victims of so-called gender-affirming care. I was fast-tracked onto puberty blockers and then testosterone. The resulting menopausal-like hot flashes made focusing on school impossible. I still get joint pains and weird pops in my back, but they were far worse when I was on the blockers. A month later, when I was 13, I had my first testosterone injection. It's caused permanent changes to my body. My voice will forever be deeper, my jawline sharper, my nose longer, my bone structure permanently masculinized, my Adam's apple more prominent, my fertility unknown. I look in the mirror sometimes and I feel like a monster. I had a double mastectomy at 15. They tested my amputated breast for cancer. And I was cancer-free, of course. I was perfectly healthy. There was nothing wrong with my still developing body or my breasts, other than that, as an insecure teenage girl, I felt awkward about it. After my breasts were taken away from me, the tissue was incinerated. Before I was able to legally drive, I had a huge part of my future womanhood taken from me. I will never be able to breastfeed. I struggle to look at myself in the mirror at times. I still struggle to this day with sexual dysfunction. And I have massive scars across my chest. And the skin grafts that they took of my nipples are weeping fluid today. And they were grafted into a more masculine positioning, they said. After surgery, my grades in school plummeted. Everything that I went through did nothing to address my underlying mental health issues that I had. And my doctors, with their theories on gender, thought that all my problems would go away as soon as I was surgically transformed into something that vaguely resembled a boy. Their theories were wrong. The drugs and surgeries changed my body, but they did not and could not change the basic reality that I am and forever will be a female. When my specialist first told my parents that they could have a dead daughter or a live transgender son, I wasn't suicidal. I was a happy child who struggled because she was different. However, at 16, after my surgery, I did become suicidal. I'm doing better now, But my parents almost got the dead daughter promised to them by my doctors. My doctors had almost created the very nightmare they said they were trying to avoid. So what message do I want to bring to American teenagers and their families? I didn't need to be lied to. I needed compassion. I needed to be loved. I needed to be given therapy to help me work through my issues, not affirm to my delusion that by transforming into a boy, it would solve all my problems. We need to stop telling 12-year-olds that they were born wrong, that they are right to reject their own bodies and feel uncomfortable with their own skin. We need to stop telling children that puberty is an option, that they can choose what kind of puberty they will go through, just so they can choose what clothes to wear or what music to listen to. Puberty is a rite of passage to adulthood, not a disease to be mitigated. Today, I should be at home with my family celebrating my 19th birthday, and instead I'm making a desperate plea to my elected representatives. Learn the lessons from other medical scandals like the opioid crisis, to recognize that doctors are human too, and sometimes they are wrong. My childhood was ruined along with thousands of detransitioners that I know through our networks. This needs to stop. You alone can stop it. Enough children have already been victimized by this barbaric pseudoscience. Please let me be your final warning. Thank you.
No i jako, że niektórzy mają problemy z wpisywaniem prostych fraz w Google'a i sprawdzanie najprostszych faktów, które wyskakują od razu na pierwszych stronach, to ja to tutaj wpiszę. Oczywiście moje pytanie także wkleję w translator, żeby nie było żadnych złudzeń, jeżeli ktoś nie mówi po angielsku. A więc ile dzieci przyjmuje blokery dojrzewania? Tutaj wyskakują nam wyniki, że w 2021 było to 5000 dzieci, ale mogę w sumie nawet przeczytać całej. Z analizy wynika, że w ciągu 5 lat liczby dzieci, które rozpoczęły leczenie blokerami dojrzewania lub hormonami, wyniosła 17 000 i wzrosła z 2300 w 2017 do 5000 w 2001, więc są to i tak już opóźnione o 2 lata badania. I wejdziemy już tutaj tylko na tą stronę. To jak widać nie grzebię po żadnych forach na 15 stronie Google'a. Nie chodzę po żadnych prawicowych stronach, tylko pierwszych, lepszych stronach, które pokazuje mi Google. Sprawdźmy tutaj statystyki, ile dzieci jest na blokerach dojrzewania. Tu tylko jeszcze wrzucę oczywiście w Translate. Pacjenci w USA w wieku 6 do 17 lat z wcześniejszą diagnozą dysforii płciowej rozpoczynającymi leczenie blokerami dojrzewania płciowego. I co my tutaj mamy? W samym 2021 było to 1390 dzieci. No, ale lecimy niżej. Tutaj niżej będziemy mieli terapię hormonalną. Ja to oczywiście po raz kolejny skopiuję. To już jest przedostatnia rzecz, którą sprawdzam. Tutaj wklejam. Pacjenci w USA w wieku 6 do 17 lat z wcześniejszą diagnozą dysforii płciowej rozpoczynający leczenie hormonalne. I lecimy z ostatnim. Tutaj będzie o podwójnej mastektomii. Top surgeries. Wklejam. Pacjenci w USA w wieku 13 do 17 lat poddawani mastektomii, u której wcześniej zdiagnozowano dysforię płciową. No i liczby, które tutaj mamy, to w 2021 to było 282. Generalnie w te dane i tak nie wchodzą ludzie, którzy robią te rzeczy w wieku 18-19 lat, ale przecież oni na te pomysły nie wpadają w tym wieku, tylko są bardzo często do tego przekonywani, kiedy mają jeszcze 15-14 lat. Jakby to były odpowiednie rzeczy, które powinni słyszeć od specjalistów, pediatrów i tak dalej. I nie zapominajmy o tym, że są to dane do 2021, a jak widzimy numery rosną drastycznie z roku na rok. Są to skoki o kilkaset procent, więc można przypuszczać śmiało, że są to teraz o wiele większe liczby. Dziękuję.